morning. Thanks for being here. Look forward to the Q&A. That's where I think we're going to be able to connect with people's questions a little better. But I wanted to reiterate a lot of what's already been said, so I'll be brief. The first thing is that this is, I believe, the civil rights issue of our time to address education. You hear governors come in every year, and nothing against our current governor, but you hear them come in every year and say they're going to be the education governor. And the reason they say that is because they know it's important. They want to make changes, I believe. But the reality is the educational establishment is very reticent to change. Like all large organizations are reticent to change. There's big bureaucracies. But for years, they win the argument because they're more focused, I believe, on maintaining the status quo, maintaining their piece of the pie. And there are wonderful innovators like Mike Davis that are in the public school apparatus. They're trying to make a change, but it's Title 20, which is this thick, that's holding them back. In other words, it's the regulatory burden that's not allowing innovators to innovate. It's not allowing excellence to reach the surface. So it's our role as the producers of these regulations, as the creators of laws, to unshackle them and to allow innovators to innovate and allow teachers to change the way they do business to inspire and educate our kids. And like Mike unfortunately realized, I can't do it in this system. Until this system changes, I'm locked down and I'm not able to get accomplished what I truly want to get accomplished. But then the issue is about fairness, and this is why I say it's a civil rights issue of our time. If Mike wants to go out and be an innovator, as he has been, he's shackled with only being able to attract, in a lot of cases, those that have means in terms of bringing in the tuition dollars. So how do you help those that truly need help? Well, fortunately, we've been pretty good on choice in Georgia, and we've at least pushed for the charter school model where state and local funds can flow to a non-traditional public entity. But there's so much more that we can do with choice without completely dismantling the current apparatus, the current status quo. And that's my goal, which is we can't just change things overnight. You know, it kind of goes back to Senate Bill 63, the Beer Jobs Bill. And I didn't plan to mention this, but it's not unlike this. And what I mean is we tried to create a system where the creators, the brewers of alcohol could sell some of their craft directly to the customer, which was prohibited by law because of the three-tier system. My whole argument in that process is we can make reasonable changes that are beneficial for small businesses without tearing down the entire three-tier system. And we're able to win that argument. And Kelly mentioned some of the challenges that we face on that, and they're still very strong because there is currently an establishment that is benefiting from the way things are, and they don't like change. The same is true in education. There's a current establishment that is benefiting from the way that things currently are in terms of job security. It would be one of them, and just being in the community and wanting to be a great educator. There's so many teachers that I think could be so much better than we're allowing them to be because we've shackled them down. So all I want to say is that we can do better, and we can do so in a way that's respectful of the way that things currently are and allow for innovation. And I believe, and this is the key point, once we open the door to innovative approaches, it's going to force, through natural competition, the status quo to step back and say, wow, we're losing kids in droves. They're taking vouchers. They're taking blended learning opportunities with digital learning, and they're going wherever the innovators have created opportunities, and they're leaving our schools. So that will then force policymakers, and it will actually force the current status quo to say, look, we've got to be unshackled because we're losing our students, we're losing our customers, if you will. And that is really what we should be about. Our Constitution in Georgia says that we are authorized to provide a free public education. But it doesn't mean we have to send them to a public school status quo. To me, public education is you and I, through our hard work and innovation in the private sector, we pay taxes. We should fund education. Well, that means we should be able to fund private school, if you want to call it that, education with tax dollars if it's going to help our kids have a better opportunity. So, why is school choice controversial? I think Mike raised a good issue. I was hitting on some of those things. It shouldn't be controversial, is the point. It should be about finding ways to help all of those along the spectrum of income be able to have opportunities and choice. It is unfair on two fronts that the wealthy would pay taxes to fund public education and get no benefit for it, just like it's unfair that the only way to get to a high-end private school is to have money. It's unfair on both ends. People that pay taxes should be able to have some of that money to be used for the education of their children. And I'm fine with doing income caps and giving the rich less. But everybody's paying in, and so everybody should get a benefit. And more importantly, our poor people who don't have the ability to move out of their constrained zip codes should be able to have access to the best. And again, in private sector innovation, when you create opportunity, in other words, let's say if my education savings account were to pass and a portion of the entire state portion of the money could follow the child, a parent is now equipped with about $4,500, give or take, let's just say. When thousands of people are now equipped with a $4,500 voucher, then the cost of innovative ideas and education will go down. I mean, that's what we see in the marketplace. TVs in the 50s were very high for families, but as a competition and the ability for more people to purchase them, that drives the cost down. And that's what we'll see in education. And, that's the question, how does innovation work? Well, how does it work to care for our poor in every other thing except education? Medicaid. Are there government-run hospitals that I don't know about? No. You've got Piedmont, you've got Northside, you've got community health centers, and they operate on funds that come as a result of the individual going there, and the federal government might pay for it in terms of Medicaid or Medicare. So the government is funding basically private entities. And so we could do the same thing with education. Now let's go back to food stamps. Let's go to food stamps. That's another example of they're not government-run commissaries. It's Publix, it's convenience stores, and we give the poor essentially a voucher to be able to go and get food. So there are areas where these ideas are not new and they're utilized, and where there is government-run healthcare is in the VA. And I'm a veteran, and you see the unbelievable challenges that it faces. I've long said, why do we have the VA? I mean, I would love to have the VA from an administrative standpoint where they're keeping track of veterans and their status. So it should just be an administration, but the delivery of health care should be done by the best hospitals in this country that are potentially privately run, and then the federal government would pay for the veterans' health care. So vouchers are not new, and the concept of education savings account is both a voucher with innovation on top, I think. So because what it allows you to do is put your own money into it. If you wanted to add more money to the education savings account, it also gives you the ability to use it for tutoring, and if your child has autism or other learning challenges, you could use the money out for those purposes as well. And so I just wanted to share some of those concepts with you because we sometimes get too in the weeds on the policy side, and it's really just it should be a philosophical argument of, do we want to provide the best educational options to every kid in this state? Well, yeah, we all agree that we do. So how do we go about doing that? Do we keep funding the same model that has yielded us a basically 48th year over year out of 50 states in our results? And it's not to make fun of any of our current administrators or the teachers. They're doing the best they can within a very difficult framework to succeed. And I'm holding up this Title 20 book that is bigger than a dictionary. And people, when they don't have the ability to innovate and think and operate outside the box, it holds people back. And so we need to, expand all kinds of options. I'm not telling you that the ESA is a silver bullet. It's just an ad. It's another tool in the toolkit, and and I hope we can get a conversation. I will say, because we're about to shift to question and answers, one of the things that y'all can do in this room to help move these kinds of ideas forward is to understand the political process a little bit and then engage with it. So if you have a passion about education savings accounts or school choice in general, then write to the education chairman in the House and the Senate and ask them to push forward the education savings accounts bill. Because politically, these things can get stopped by one or two people, even when the vast majority are for it in the legislative process. If it's not able to be voted on, then it will never see the light of day. So that's the biggest way that y'all can help, is to engage with the chairman in the Senate of Education and the chairman in the House, and tell them that you want choice options expanded for kids all over the state. So I'll close there. Thank you for being here and for being the folks that are engaged in the process, and I look forward to your questions.